There was just a massive paradox gaping open between the implausibility of Chloe's presence there and the fact that she appeared so healthy, so vivid, so joyous. And you are none of that when you are severely sick. Frankly, it made me a little worried, but I tried hard to ignore that feeling by referring to my promise I gave her, namely to trust her unconditionally. It was so damn hard to lay those thoughts aside, in which she had not as much luck as I had, so to speak, the thoughts in which she was in danger, serious danger. With admittedly a heavy mood, I entered the hallway and ultimately had the picture before my eyes from when I left. The long corridor, all those rooms, on its left and right. The nurse's office, which indicated the location of my former room. All that suddenly seemed not so nice anymore, in the light of concern which I was emanating. I went further and approached the office Jessica was likely situated in when she was not dealing with an emergency. Carefully I spied into it to see if my apprehension had any truth stuck to it. I scanned through the people inside, only to see that she was not— Wait, there, I remarked silently, as I saw her coming from a small back room. That amazement was mutual, as I could tell by her reaction when she saw me. The amazement itself may have been equal. The polarity, though, was reciprocal. I smiled and waved at her, while Jessica was hesitating and almost acting as if she didn't know me whatsoever. I probably even disturbed the other nurses inside with my movement, but ultimately she waved back at me and turned away again afterwards, just to satisfy me pro forma, as it seemed. I walked further, while only more concerns popped up. I even had trouble matching all that with my past experience to reach a consensus. In the beginning, they were all so lovely and compassionate towards me, but now first Jessica and then Dr. Bush have changed so much and even made me feel kind of unappreciated, as if they wanted me to stay away. Only Chloe remained normal in comparison, but who knows for how long. As a result, my anticipation flattened to a great extent due to my fear she would do the same, which meant it was over before it even began properly. I began to feel kind of abused, used as a pillow to lay onto, to cry, and then throw it away afterwards, when you don't need it anymore. Too huge was the fear that everything was a monstrous illusion I only made up for myself and never truly existed. But as I wanted to gain certainty, I proceeded 2 doors further and knocked on the door. After 3 hard knocks, I stepped inside and saw myself alone in an empty room. I honestly doubted my own rational perception and also reality itself. It brought forth that illusion thought once more, but ad hoc, I saw no different option than taking place on a chair and waiting for her to return, whenever that should happen. Consecutively, I waited inside this empty room, where I didn't even saw another patient being situated in my stead. In fact, the bed was rolled away, so that Chloe was definitely alone inside there. The room itself was therefore without major changes compared to when I left. But against all odds, I didn't recognize those joyous moments I have experienced so far. The only thing I felt was concern, but in a very neutral way, and it referred only to myself, unlike elsewhere. At some point, my only intention was to leave and try to forget what I was so impregnated with, because after all, I saw no occasion to maintain all that. I was distinctly on the rail of illusion, where I told myself that I just made everything up. But right when I had to face the most opaque point, the shadows were repulsed by radiating light. My line of thought was interrupted by the doorknob cracking, and I was literally triggered by that noise, as it was the personalized version of the door opening procedure. That means that one special person had a very special way to open the door, namely pushing the knob down once before doing that a second time and then pushing it open. Measured by that, I could tell who it was, even before I saw them. I sat inside my chair as if I had the cramp. So much I longed for that to happen finally. And when she came in, it was obviously being reciprocated, as she smiled at me like she never did before. At first, I had to organize my thoughts, because I had again experienced way too many paradoxes. But after my heart just skipped a beat or two, or even more, I recalled the promise I gave her, which raised my mood tremendously. To that also contributed the fact, according to which I arranged that mainly with Chloe. So it basically didn't matter at all what Jessica or someone else was thinking of me. Actually, it was kind of rude of them to treat me that way, After all, I always brought them respect and appreciation. I even called one of them my friend. But that only proved not everyone who claims to be your friend is it in the end. And unlike those supposed fake friends behaved Chloe. I could see not one spark of perplexity or confusion. She actually behaved exactly in the way I longed for. Joy and satisfaction were distinctly predominant as she approached more and more, until she was as close as usual. Then, being situated within roughly 1 meter, we exchanged first words. "Hey, there you are," she initiated in elation. "And so are you, I guess," I replied, totally relieved, due to the clarity spreading that not everything was an illusion. Actually, the most important memories, situations, or incidents were real, and nothing else counted for me. Subsequently, every other doubt, if there was any left whatsoever, collapsed, and I could adjust to the normal mood, which was usual for interactions with her. With that amendment made, I found words for her once more. "It's so good to see you." At first I thought, well, never mind, I'm just glad, that's all. "It's awesome to see you as well, but what did you mean when you thought at first? About what? When you say it like that, it must have some weight, huh?" I quickly had to admit one more time that whatever I tried to hide from her, she saw at first. One thing that definitely didn't change, so like last time I just searched for words and told her what my issue was, even though I was well aware that it was her best friend we were going to talk about. But as long as I don't approach too harshly, I wouldn't cause any disruptions. So I explained silently and also a bit intimidated. "They are all so strange towards me, precisely since they announced my release. Then they treated me like, the truth is, they literally avoided me and behaved strangely, be it Dr. Bush or even Jessica. And I just have no words for that. Regarding Jessica, I even thought we were friends. But now I have to reevaluate that as settled when I reconsider her reaction from some minutes ago. I waved at her, similar to the way friends do, but she looked at me as if I was a criminal or as if I had killed someone. Yeah, I have my mistakes and vices, but that is just insane. While I talked myself in a frenzy, I barely noticed that she took place on my lap and also appeared to be affected by that. At the end of my speech and monologue, I eventually brought forth my greatest fear. To tell the truth, I was not far away from just leaving and never coming back. How could I be sure that they were the only ones behaving like that? As I finished my last sentence, she grabbed my hand like she never did before and squeezed it in that fighter manner again. I interpreted that as one manifestation of anger, but if so, not because of me, since then she likely would have reacted in a different way. She leaned against me and placed her head on my shoulder. She remained wordless, though she told me something with that. Something I could understand, since she was the only one who wasn't a paradox in person. In 2 words, solidarity and unity. As a consequence, it took some time for both of us to return to verbal exchange. "Aaron, yes, I still know your name. Do you still trust me?" Admittedly, I hesitated a bit, but only with the result that I asked myself why I was hesitating. So I gave her the response. "Sure, you are now the only reason that I am here inside this hospital, if that was any different whatsoever. So when I trust someone, then you." She sat then upright on my lap as she continued. "Ignore them. I will do the talking. I likely know about their issue, but most importantly, don't blame yourself for that, as it is not about you. You are, how should I say, between the fronts somehow. Involved, but somehow not really. Know, however, that you still matter to me, or rather that I like you just the way I did when you left. Maybe even more. But anyway, let's talk about something new." I was, as a result, a little bit confused in terms of those fronts she mentioned, but ultimately interpreted that as a huge misunderstanding. So according to that, they just used me somehow to get along with something or someone else. A very vague assumption indeed. But once more, that unconditional trust implied that I didn't have to understand everything. When I trust her, everything up in the air will be resolved, was my philosophy for that situation. Otherwise, I would have termed it skepticism. Anyway, To comply with her plea, I changed the subject as to why the time for her appearance was so unusual. And from then on, I also got my rational comprehensible answers I desired. Recently, there were some changes made regarding the schedules for the personnel as well as the patients. Some nurses look after different people, and for those people, appointments have changed. That was the case for me as well. Another room, another time, and another caregiver. And correspondingly, I still have to get used to that. Until now, Jessica brought me to that specific place at that specific time, where and when I was checked through. But since yesterday, I got allocated to another carer, and well, that proved me above all that this hospital has not only one floor. She said that a little bit amused, but also embarrassed, so I dug deeper. Why did you pronounce it like that? What happened? Yeah, basically not much, only that I had to ask for the way back to my room. She smiled coyly while I grinned at her, quite amused. How did that happen? I mean, when I had to deal with the X-ray, I had to face at least a similar situation. Fortunately, I was guided back, because otherwise I would have the same story to tell. So see it as something more we have in common, instead of something to be embarrassed about. I made her chuckle a bit as a result, so she continued her story. Wow, those nurses have the trait to lead you through secret ways to your destination, so that you have no chance at all to orientate yourself towards the signs. But why didn't the caregiver lead you back to your room, like they have done for me? As I said, I was accompanied with a new one, a really new one, which means someone who did not only begin to work here not long ago, but also with that profession in general. So you're alluding that they forgot you. You could say that, I guess. But nevertheless, everything is fine, and you didn't forget me. So, how are your things going? I smiled due to the subtle way she expressed her joy of seeing me before I thought about an answer. But after a little bit of silence, I replied, Luckily, it is not as dramatic as I assumed it to be. A fellow student gave me all the information regarding dates and appointments, and I still have a lot of time left to catch up with everything. That means, in return, that we will see each other more often. That is pleasant to hear, she said, before asking another question. Have you returned to school yet, or did you indulge in the benefits of still curing? Well, what you meant with second comes close to the truth. When you are sick, you have a little margin to defer things, so in terms of that, you're probably right. But actually the purpose is to acclimatize myself to the old, new situation. There are no motives of avoiding school. Okay, maybe a few, but anyway. The next couple of days will be consisting of catching up with formal stuff and learning something for the main exams starting soon. And the next week will be dealing with passing them, since the first is already set up for then. English, that ominous computer science, and thirdly biology. Did I get that right? Absolutely, I smiled proudly. And consecutively, the biology and informatics exams will take place 1 week later. That's why I said I had enough time. Okay, when you visit next time, can you teach me something that you've learned? That question surely caught me off guard, but there was not one thing I had preferred more.